Likkutei Torah, Parshas Pinchas, first column, a little bit past midway. If you see on this left side, it's Eis Beis, a few lines below that. Okay, now the Rabbi asks a number of questions on the Pasuk Tzavos B'nai Yisrael. First of all, why does it say Marta? And then one time it says Takrivu, one time it says Tasa. Also, one's Lashon Rabbim, one's Lashon Yachid. Okay? So he says, what does Tzav mean? Tzav means immediately and for all future generations. So he started going off and he started asking, what's this whole inyan of Kabbanis that is Reich Lichayach Hashem, a good smell? Like, what does that mean in a practical sense? So he says, the reason Hashem created the world was Yeridat Tzerech Aliyah. Okay? And he says, there's the level of Yachid, the way there is no world, and then becomes Chay Olam Melech, and B'Chay Olam in the life of the world. And why is that? Because he wants to be a Melech. Okay, this is where we're up to now. This coming into the world, to create Yesh Mi'ayin, like we finished off last time. Hashem created Yesh Mi'ayin, our job is to make the Ayin into the Yesh. I mean, it's like the Yesh back into the Ayin. This ray of Hashem that was part of Hashem. What's the purpose? The same, not only the neshama coming into the guf. What is the purpose of Elokus coming down from an infinite level, or from Yachid all the way to be Chay Olamim? That the Yesh should also be bottled. To be also one with Hashem. What's the uniqueness of this? So the Rebbe says, well, Aliyah Ikris, this is the primary Aliyah. Why? The Levyasin that Hashem created to play with, meaning, what is the entertainment of Hashem? So he's explaining as follows. As it's called in English, S-O-S-O, we learned this many times. S-O-S-O, same old, is not exciting. When you have something new, it's exciting. Like you give all the mishalim, vacation is really a pain. Okay? You know, it's not your bed, not your food, and you have to pack, and it's not the same. What's the whole chiddush? It's a change of scenery. You have something new. So he says, that ayin is batul telukus is no big deal. Ayin means bittul. What is the enjoyment that Hashem has that He was willing to make this yurida all the way down of elukus, coming from the level of yachid all the way into a level of gashmias, was because of the enjoyment that yesh becomes ayin.
That makes guf more precious than neshama.
Yes, that's what we learned. Is the level of bria, like it says a chochma yayin timatza. V'chochma is reishus hagilim ishtaushus ha'ilmis. Mash'enkin is savis miyesh li'ayin. In other words, it says like this: yesh mi'ayin is natural. That's the concept of creation. Hashem created Bereshit bara yesh mi'ayin. But what's the chiddush of that of creation, that we make the yesh back into an ayin? That's shini ateva. Because by teva, yesh is yesh. It's an entity existence. Davar chaji v'shini ateva. V'ikar is chayk v'chedva. What's primary enjoyment? Hashini v'yischachis is the changing and the new concept. Kederech she'es of the melachim v'sadim. Like how do kings and officers entertain themselves? People do shows. So what's the show? That this guy does this is that, weird things, different things. As a shini v'schachim v'simcha v'schayk. U'kamei kain ksiv. U'tas chadish b'nei Adam until it says there's a chidish on p'nei Adama yizmach Hashem b'maisef. Let's skip the 5 lines. Down here, what's bittul hayesh ta'ayin? It bittul gashmius luchnius. Right? When you hear what's bittul, so gashmi is a yesh, Yeah, and you do bittul to ruchnis. Now that Rebbe is going to say that in ruchnis there's also bittul yesh la'ayin. In ruchnis there's also yesh. Ruchni yesh, not gashmi yesh. Al be'emes gam l'mayla gam b'chinas ruchnis. There's a level of yesh, like it says, ein loch esu mamat, she'ein le mazel. There's no grass down here, doesn't have a mazel that hits it and says grow. And the mazel gets his chayis mishmari oifanim. And the Ifanim get the Chayis and Chayis HaKadosh. The Chayis get from the Srafim. Right? So if you have all these levels, Shamazel, B'chinis Yesh, Legabe Ifanim. So Mazel compared to the Ifanim is a Yesh, and Ifanim Legabe Chayis HaKadosh. So even in Ruchni, you have Mashal, Bria, the world of Bria, compared to Atzilus is Yesh Miyayin. There's no Gashmi there, it's all Ruchni. So the primary level of yesh to ayin is the physical world, that it becomes godly. But even in ruchnius, you have yesh mi ayin, you have a lower level compared to a higher level is yesh mi ayin. And that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara speaks about what jewelry animals could, what things an animal could walk out with on Shabbos. So what in Mishnah, Bali Ashir Yitzim Mishir, which is a type of animal thing. But Chassidus and Kabbalah explain it, Bali Ashir is the level of Shir of a Zimra. The level of singing. Shashir of a Zimra. Ubachina Simcha v'Tainik, which is Yitziyos, taking it out of their shell, their covering, which is Kalim. Shel Mambil, some which limits them. Meaning like this. Even in Ruchnias, we learned a lower level is more covered than a higher level. What's the difference between a higher level and a lower level? More concealment, less concealment. So what's the avodah of take out the Ruchni from its concealment to come to a higher level, meaning a lesser concealment? That Bria we need to elevate to Atzilus and Yetzirah to Bria and Asiyah to Yetzirah and higher. All the chayes that come to Nivroim is a level of Eretz v'Kelim. Right? There's Ard and Keli. Everything has an Ard and Keli. By day Hashir, and through the level of song. Sha'im nima malachim, that the malachim sing, they go out of the Kelim Shalahem. L'iskalu ba'erinta baruchu mamish, to become one with Hashem. In other words, the Aved of Malachim doesn't come to the Aved of a Jew. But Malachim also have, by the way, Malachim says in Tanya, Malachim also have a guf, but it's a guf, ruchni. In other words, our body is composed of 4 elements, fire, air, earth, and water. Malachim are composed of fire and air, which are the least tangible of the 4. So they also have a guf. They also have their limitations. Why do Malachim sing Shir? What's the purpose of Malachim singing the praise of Hashem? They actually go out of their spiritual keli. But it's only a limited upward. By a Yid, it's infinite. When you make Yesh into Ruchni, Yesh Bittul, Gashmi Yesh into Bittul, that's an infinite accomplishment.
But they sacrifice, Rabbi, in their lives, no?
Who?
The Malachim.
They don't sacrifice their life.
They get to a level where...
What life do they have?
They have no choice.
They have no life either. Yeah, no choice and no life.
They have to do what he says. That's it.
He says like this. The Alter Rebbe at the beginning of the Maimon started with this concept of korbanos, right? What's the korban, reich nichayach, and all that. He says the ikar bittul of yesh ta'ayin in ma'aser korbanos. The primary bittul of yesh ta'ayin is in korbanos. Why? Shenefesh habehemes. What's the source of a physical animal? Sure, animals. Shor represents animals. Aryeh represents all the beasts, the chayes. So you have behemoths and chayes. The source of all behemoths comes from the short of the Merkava. which comes from the left side. Carbon, and by bringing a carbon, you take this animal, whether it's an ox, a lamb, whatever it is, and you elevate it back to the shore of the Merkava, back to the shore, back to its source. That means now this animal of a carbon becomes one with the level of the shore of the Merkava. Carbon, that's why the Levium sang Shira when the Karbanos were brought. What's the union of Levium singing Shir? Because that's the elevation of the Behema going back to its source. Umisham the Achol Korbanin, through this lion, like we learned, the Gemara in Yuma says, in days of Shlomo Melech, a fire came down from heaven, Ravutza Kari crouched like a lion, and that was the fire of above, in addition to you had to bring your own fire from down here, but there was this fire that burnt the animals. So what does it mean in a spiritual sense? Just like, who brought the carbon down here? Koyanim. Koyanim is chesed. Levi is gvura. So me'er l'mayla b'chinas chesed of Aryeh. The achol karbanin, because again, the shor was on the smile, the Aryeh is pnei Aryeh el yamin, the pasuk says. That means Aryeh is the level of chesed, shor is the level of gvura, right and left. So when you brought a shor, it was elevated on the Mizbeach, and it became elevated even greater through the Aryeh, the lion that ate the karbanis. In other words, why did it have to come down in the shape of a lion? Why couldn't it just come down in a fire? Because the Aryeh is the level of, even though it's Yira, but many places explain it's the level of Chesed. The Geber Chesed Al Yimachim, we mean it to Chapageni. Mamish to become one with Hashem. So where do you have the ultimate level of Bittul Hayesh? When you take a Gashmistic, a Behema, and that becomes elevated to Gavay al Gavay, to the highest level of Elokus.
And it's supposed to affect you.
Once that's it, now he said, that's the level of Tefillah. That's the level of davening. The ultimate, davening is instead of Karbanos. Meaning the ultimate level of Bittul to Hashem is the level of davening. It's known, Shemichol Sara Godel, it says in Zoyar, on Medrash, that the Michol, who's Chesed, Gabriel is Gvura, Michol is Chesed, is Michol Sara Godel, Makib Nishmeseina Shal Yisrael Agabi Mizbeach. The Medrash says that Michol, whatever it means, sacrifices the neshamas of Yidden on the Mizbeach, up there. Okay, this Isha Yisrael, the Karbanos of a Yid, which is that comes through the meditation of davening, to elevate and bind the neshamas of Yidden in Hashem. That's lachmi le'ishai. That's the concept of bread. What is le'ishai? Ishay Yisrael. As karbani lachmi le'ishai means shali. It's Hashem's fire. Meaning, shasarfin aberdem elai. Hainusrafim which are yukred eish bar balibam. This burning fire and the srafim, they have this, desire, they're consumed with the fire to go up to Hashem, with this tremendous, big, strong love. Why do they have this longing to Hashem? In order to have a longing to Hashem, you have to know what Hashem is. Malachim, the Srafim are on the highest level of Malachim. Srafim emdim mimalei. They find a chayes hakedesh, but misnasim leumas Srafim. The Srafim are the highest level. They're in the world of Bria. Bria is an understanding of Elokus. It's Bina. It's understanding of Elokus. Shelamayla mi'elam ha'yitzira v'asiyah. Therefore, Srafim who understand the level of Elokus have this tremendous longing to become one with Hashem, which is, by the way, what Al Rebbe is going to explain, that's the Aved of Tefillah. It's the concept of Tefillah. But therefore, this is the sustenance of the Srafim. Because there's no grass that doesn't have a mazel, and the mazel gets from Shmoni Eifanim, and the Eifanim get from Chayis HaKedesh, and the Chayis get it from Srafim. Therefore, therefore, when you elevate the carbon, it becomes Srafim, that becomes their lechem. It becomes the bread of the malachim of Srafim. They give them this longing to go up. And he says, Kamei lechem ha-mesaku b'mei adam, just like food, bread, becomes consumed in the body. V'nasi kabasha v'dam adam mamish, it becomes the blood and flesh of the person. Achenasi l'mazim becomes the sustenance. Umeisel le'kayach l'chayis, and it has chayis to the person. So now you're talking about the bread of the Srafim. What happens? Kachakar b'mis'akol v'nichlo b'chayis v'Srafim. The korban, spiritually speaking, becomes digested in the chayis and the Srafim. It becomes mazin. Umeisel kayach v'chayis v'Srafim la'leisim, to elevate them, ulishtabah b'gufa the malkamam, to hug mamish the body of the king.
That's why they wait for padosh.
But they wait until the Yidden say it.
Because it's their food.
Correct.
Is whose food? The angel's food?
His angel's food is the korbanos. But again, what are angels? Extension of Elokus.
Are we allowed to ask why?
Ask why what?
Why he go through this? To kill animals, sacrifice, or we cannot ask that?
You can ask.
Why does he have to do it this way?
I said Shabbos. You can't ask on Hashem why. You can ask what do we learn from it. This is what Hashem wanted. But by the way, contrary to Peter and all those other organizations, when Mashiach comes, they're going to go back to Korban, what Rambam says, yeah? And they're not going to protest with demonstrations about it. Because you're elevating the animal to a higher state. You're making an animal godly. So now they don't see it, they see you killing an animal. But why did Hashem allow us to eat an animal? It's not because of cruelty, it's because on the contrary, we're elevating the animal. It's beneficial to the animal. Okay, now the question is, Al Rebbe is going to ask, but why is it coming from a sheep? It should come from a short. The double korban, the morning korban, the afternoon korban is keves echad tafsal b'baker. So he says now in base. Why does it come from a sheep? The nefesh of the behemoth. It comes from the shore of the Merkava and then goes back there, but Hashem chose kvasim dafke. That means an ox gets open chayis in the shore of the Merkava. Other animals, it's not a shore, so it gets limited. Why did Hashem pick keves? Shekeves yashle kil rachamim, because the sound of a sheep is what's called it's a merciful voice, midasa shel Yaakov. And he says not only that, but gam keves, the sheep, yeshle tzemer ba'orek, has wool, shemenu reva levushim, that most of the levushim come from wool.
So does the cow.
Wool?
Not wool, but it has
He's saying garments come from sheep. Wool.
leather comes from.
But most garments are not odd. Most garments are wool. Yes? Samer upishtim yachtov. Okay. Now, well, lemaila, what's the inyan of or lemaila? Or is the inyan rakia shemimenu nimshach. So the tzuruf is with their level of size. Or lemaila is the level of rakia, whatever that comes, all the combinations of the letters. Shalzeh Amrazal Shamalach Sandalfein, there's a melech called Sandalfein. Keshik Sarim Lokene ties crowns to Hashem from the tzrufi aces of tefillah. Okay, but and the other Rebbe says, "Vadvarim atikim." These words are old words, kabbalistic. Vein laharich. You don't have to talk a lot about it. Bottom line is, Kevin says a mile that all the inyan of levushim, which is makif, come from. So therefore, it's a level of makifim, which is higher than the level of ishtaushlis. So you're talking about elevating all the stuff. So yeah, even though a shard is openly from the shard, and kevis is indirectly coming from shard, but kevis has that mile. First, it's me'er rachamim. When the sheep cries, it's like a help, the merciful to cry, and that's that. But the flesh, the fats, the blood, the veins, and the bones of the korban tamid, Alter Rebbe says something else. When they burnt the korban oil on the mizbeach, he said, what was burnt? The meat, the fats, the blood, the veins, and the bones. Where did the leather of the hide of the animal go? Even by a korban oila. That's what it says. The pasuk says in Chumash, the korban oila did not burn the hide. It burnt everything else. The sheep, the wool, when they brought the kevis, it was the korban tamid, the whole thing burnt, except the skin, the hide that had the sheep, the wool on it. Those two went to koyanim. Why? Because it cannot be one with the chayis and nefesh habamis like basar chel dam atzmas v'gidem. Therefore, it wasn't burnt with them. Because then it's the completeness with the wool.
Common sense, the canvas is much lighter than the cow.
So?
You bring it on the mizbeach.
No.
Easier to bring it up.
You think that's why they did it?
One reason.
They used to schlep, the kohanim used to schlep up the ramp of the mizbeach.
Yes.
To burn it. Not a kevis, a shod. Somebody brought a bull. Par echad, ayil echad, kevis echad. Yeah? They schlepped it up, it was heavy.
By himself?
No, a few kohanim together. Schlepped it up on the ramp, and then they were makriv it. They burnt it. It's a long ramp.
Yes.
The ramp was 32 amas long.
Thousands of it.
That's about close to 60 feet long. What?
Over 1,000 sheep and cows a day.
Whatever, but he's talking about the communal korban. 1,000, I don't know, could be. He says like this, so now the Alter Rebbe is going to elaborate on the blood, fats, that all that's burnt. So be it in Basa Ginu Atzam Slamayla Derech Moshe Yuvim Mashikosu B'Sifri Chochm. Okay? It was brought down in science books. And he tuach she'esavas atzmus It says over there like this: the creation of the bones comes from the brain. The creation of the flesh comes from the blood. Which is in the heart. Or like the Gemara says in Nida, in the white part of the zera of the father, there comes the bones. Okay? So the bones and come from different parts of the father. So he says, Lev Makom Mishkan Amidus Avavira, which are the level of the Sichas Hadamim Shebelev Gashmi, which is blood in the heart is warm, right? The blood is not cooking, but it's 98.6 officially. It cooks. That's the Ava Rav Taivas Gashmis. That's the level of Ava of evil. Taivas Gashmi, Tzurch, victory of evil. V'kach l'mayla machne michol Ava Aza. And machne Gabriel is a level of Gvura. That's the basar. Hanim shech min adam shebelev. That's the level of basar that comes from which is in the heart. Achadas asaga shemasim gedul sings baruch kochalefum shiudirei. Or the madregot say that's the level of atzame sheboy min ameich. See something like this. Blood, the ava v'yira comes from the dam. And the intellect comes from the mayach, which is the level of the leiven, the bones.
The white part.
Yes, the bones come to mayach.
The bones doesn't burn.
Bones burn. They burned on the mizbeach. They only had ashes left afterwards.
So it was a
Was that probably a big fire? Everything eventually burns. The only question is how hot, Even things that are fireproof, if the fire is hot enough, it's going to burn it. Okay.